All right, so we're really diving deep today with Simon Sinek's. Start with why,
It's a good one.
right? Just the title alone, it kind of makes you stop and think, like,
Yeah.
is there this secret code for success that we've all been missing out on?
It's funny you should say code because it really is like a fundamental shift
Ooh.
in how we think about, I think, leadership and impact. And, one of the big takeaways from Sinek is this idea that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Okay, so it's about connecting with the motivation, the deeper purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of maps this out visually with what he calls the golden circle.
Okay.
And so picture like three concentric circles. You've got your what, your how, and your why.
Right.
And I think a lot of companies, most companies, communicate from the outside in.
So they lead with the what.
They lead with the what, this is what we do, this is maybe how we do it, and then, oh, by the way, maybe this is why.
Honestly, that just feels like a sales pitch half the time.
Exactly.
Right. Doesn't feel genuine.
But the companies, the leaders that really inspire, they flip it.
Okay.
They start with the why. Like, this is the deep-seated belief, the core value that fuels everything they do. Then they show how that belief, that why, translates into action. And then, finally, they reveal what they actually create.
And it's like, you think about a company like Apple.
Perfect example.
We all know, yeah, they make computers, they make phones.
Right.
But there's just something else there.
Yeah.
There's that feeling, that allure
Low I.
that goes way beyond the actual product.
And I think back to, their iconic Think Different campaign.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't about product features. That was about tapping into an ethos. Like,
Right.
we believe in challenging the status quo.
Right. It's like, that's Apple.
Yeah. And so Apple's why, innovation, creativity, empowering the individual, you see it reflected in everything they do.
The design of their products, for sure. Even just down to, like, their marketing campaigns, the 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Yes.
That wasn't about how much storage space was on that iPod. It was about freedom, experiencing music in a whole new way.
And that's the thing. When you tap into the why, it just hits different, right? And Sinek, he connects this to our biology, like literally how our brains work.
Okay, get out of here.
For real.
Yeah.
The limbic brain. That's the part that deals with emotions, gut feelings. So when you lead with why, you kind of bypass all that logical stuff and you connect on a much deeper level.
Oh, so you're saying it's about resonating emotionally first,
Yeah.
and then people's logic kicks in later to justify it.
100%. And it's not about being manipulative, it's about authenticity. When you genuinely believe in your why, it shines through. People can feel it.
So how can we tell if a company's really living their why? Is it just like clever slogans, good marketing?
Yeah.
Or is there a way to tell if it's authentic?
Well, Sinek has this really interesting concept called the celery test.
The celery test.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have to know more.
All right, so picture this. You're at the grocery store.
Okay.
You've got your shopping list.
Yep.
Celery, rice milk, Oreos, M&Ms.
Wait, hold on. This is a weird combo. Celery and Oreos.
That's the point. So you get home, you unpack your bags, and something feels off.
Like, did I forget something?
Maybe. Or maybe it's that those things, even though they were on your list, they don't actually belong together.
I've totally been there. Like, why did I buy those chips? That doesn't match my whole healthy eating things at all.
Exactly. That's the celery test. You can have all the right elements, the things on the list, but if they don't actually align with your deeper goals, your values, something's going to feel off.
So are you saying companies could be like that too?
All the time. A decision they make, a product launch, a marketing campaign, if it feels misaligned with their why, it probably is. Even if the data supports it. Even if, on paper, it makes sense.
So you got to trust your gut, like that feeling of, does this resonate with me or not?
Exactly. He gives the example of Volkswagen.
Oh, okay.
They released this luxury sedan, the Phaeton, top-of-the-line features, the whole 9 yards. On paper, it should have been a hit, but it totally flopped.
Why? What happened?
What mismatch? Because Volkswagen, right. They're the people's car. Affordable, accessible. Suddenly they're trying to sell this luxury vehicle.
It's like they were being someone they weren't.
Totally. And it costs them. Remember what we said before? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. If your actions contradict your why, you lose that trust.
Yeah, you lose that credibility. Which I guess that kind of makes me think about attracting the right people to your company too.
100%.
It's not just about the customers. It's about your employees, the partners you work with, even the investors.
It's about finding your tribe.
Yes, people who get you, who are excited by the same things,
Who believe what you believe.
who want to be a part of something bigger.
Sinek uses this great example. Ernest Shackleton's Antarctic expedition.
Yeah, wasn't it like the
Or
early
no,
1900s?
1914. And he needed a crew. And this was a dangerous, difficult journey. I mean, we're talking like really intense.
Yeah, I bet.
And the way he advertised the expedition was so interesting.
What'd he do?
The ad basically said straight up, hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, safe return, doubtful.
He really put it all out there, huh?
He did, because he knew he wasn't looking for just anyone. He needed people who understood that the adventure, the challenge, the pursuit of going on this journey was its own reward.
So he found his people.
He found his tribe. He attracted this incredibly resilient crew and that shared belief, that shared why it's actually what they say was crucial to their survival.
Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. We are hardwired to connect with people and businesses that share our values, you know?
We are. It's about finding your people, the ones who just get it, the ones who are in for the same reason you are. But then the question is, how do you keep that going?
Especially as your company grows and changes.
How do you make sure the why doesn't get lost or diluted?
Yeah. What does Sinek say about that?
Trust. Authentic trust.
Mm.
And the way you build that is by constantly making sure your actions are matching up with your why.
So it's got to be real, not just talk.
Exactly. He used the example of Continental Airlines.
Continental, weren't they like notorious back in the day?
They were the worst. In the early 90s, they were considered the worst airline in the industry.
Oof.
Morale was in the toilet. Customers were unhappy. But then this guy, Gordon Bethune, comes in as CEO, and he turns the whole thing around.
Seriously. From worst to first. How do you pull that off?
It's actually a really inspiring story. So instead of just focusing on profits or trying to spin some fancy marketing campaign, Bethune, he focused on the employees.
Interesting.
He realized that if he could improve their morale, if he could give them a sense of why they were doing what they were doing, it would have this ripple effect. It would improve the customer experience, everything.
So he empowered his own people first.
Exactly. He gave them a reason to believe in the company again. He said, we're going to be the best airline in the industry.
That's a bold statement when you're starting from the bottom.
Right. But he backed it up with action. Like, he made himself so accessible to the employees. He'd even, work alongside baggage handlers at the airport.
Wow, he got his hands dirty.
He wanted to show them, I'm in the trenches with you. We're in this together. It wasn't just lip service. He walked the walk. And it worked.
That's the mark of a true leader, I think.
Yeah.
Someone who inspires not just by what they say, but by what they do.
100%. But, sometimes companies, they lose their way. They lose sight of that why.
What happens then? Do they just become, kind of blah?
It's almost worse than that. Sinek calls it the split. It's when the why and the what, they become totally misaligned.
Oh, so they're still functioning, but
they've lost their soul, their authenticity. Like a ship without a rudder, it might still float, but it's going nowhere.
that's kind of a scary thought. And there are tons of companies that seem to fall into that trap.
Right. So is it inevitable? That's the big question. And Sinek says, no, not necessarily.
Okay, so there's hope.
There's hope. He points to Southwest Airlines. They've been around forever.
They have.
And they've stayed remarkably consistent with their why, which is being the champion for the common man, making air travel affordable and accessible.
Wow, I can get behind that.
And the really interesting thing is they've managed to maintain that even after their founder, Herb Kelleher, stepped down.
So it's not just about one charismatic leader.
It's about building a culture that embodies the why, embedding it into the company's DNA.
Making it bigger than any one person.
Exactly. And that takes real intention. Speaking of, legendary leaders, what do you think happens when that person who so clearly embodies the why, what happens when they're gone?
That's a great question. Does their legacy live on?
Right. And Sinek has this really interesting way of looking at it. He talks about the difference between building a megaphone and just being a voice.
Okay, a megaphone versus a voice. I like that. Tell me more.
So a voice, right, it's tied to one person. When that person's gone, the voice is gone. But a megaphone, it amplifies that message.
It lets it be heard by so many more people.
Exactly. And if a leader can build that megaphone, if they can embed the why into the culture, the systems, the very fabric of the organization,
then their message can live on.
even when they're not there to say it. Think about Harley Davidson.
Okay.
Their logo, it's more than just a logo. It's like a symbol.
Of a whole way of life.
Exactly. Freedom, adventure, individuality. People get Harley-Davidson tattoos.
It's true. It's more than just a brand. It's like this tribe, this movement.
That's the power of starting with why. It's about connecting on such a deep level that it transcends just selling a product. It's about purpose. And I think that's something that we all crave, whether we realize it or not.
It's been amazing revisiting Start With Why with you. It's one of those books that, you can read it once and get a lot out of it, but then you come back to it and it's like a whole new layer unlocks.
Every time. And it's so relevant, I think, no matter what you're doing, whether you're leading a company, a team, even just trying to figure out your own path. Understanding your why is so important.
It gives you that compass, that direction. And who knows, you might even inspire others along the way. So to our listeners, we'll leave you with this. What's your why? What gets you fired up? What's that driving force behind everything you do?
Find your why and start there.